Welcome to the Krypton Report, the All Things Kryptonian podcast, where we talk about anything relating to Superman, Supergirl, Krypton, DC Comics, and TV, movies, video games, comics. I am your host, Tyler, the Superman of Blue, the Man of Tomorrow. On today's episode of the Krypton Report, you'll get to hear my voice and the voice of James. We call these our morning voices, or maybe our manly voices. I don't know, but it's early. We love podcasting. We like talking, so here we are. So enjoy the deep, rich sounds of Tyler and James on the Krypton Report. Hello, James.
Morning, Tyler.
We got our cups of coffee, and it's getting cooler in Ohio, so everybody's dealing with the weather change and sinuses. Good times.
Well, it's about time the weather changed. You know, I don't have any. I think all I have is like mild early spring allergies. So, which I've never really had before.
Yeah.
the problems with getting old.
Oh, Holy for Soup has my favorite song right now called "Getting Old Sucks," but everybody's doing it.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So, I dealt with that earlier this year. Nothing major, but just uncomfortable, you know, never growing up without them. And then, you know, when you're doing yard work, it's getting all itchy and stuff.
Itchy and scratchy.
It only lasted early seasonal, so right now, I mean, it's the big temperature swings that mess up, that would get me sick.
Me too.
It's the big temperature swings. So this is actually cooling down from the mid to upper 90s to the mid 70s. It was very nice this week.
The 70s.
It's the biggest relief we've had.
It's nice. I love it. But it does cause some sinus pressure on my forehead and my nose. But yeah. And the kids both have a little bit of a cold and just allergies. Let's see here. Any news? A little. So it looks like Batwoman is just going to do everything it can to be Batman without Batman and reinvigorate the show by doing Batman villains. So they just cast Poison Ivy for Batwoman.
Well, she certainly fits the mold. If they could use Harley, they'd put her in there too, because she, you know, she's a bisexual female. Mm-hmm. So if they could use her, they would put her in there.
So there we go. And they kind of set that up at the end of the last season. Shazam has officially wrapped completely. I'm really surprised that they haven't started shooting Shazam 3. Like they just like immediately kind of go into Shazam 3 / Black Adam movie, you know? Because they showed pictures of like the kids where they are now. I'm like, if you wait too much longer, they're going to be way grown up.
Yeah. Well, heck, Asher Angel was, 15, 16 years old when he did the first Shazam, so he's got to be an adult now.
Yeah, like he was already like...
By the time he filmed this.
He was already like on that cusp of like, he's getting too old, because once Billy gets too old, man, like it loses something. The Shazam character loses something.
He does. He loses some of that child innocence and stuff like that. I think it's a character thing, but you know, they don't ever really tell the stories when he grows up. You know, that was one of the interesting things. I mean, they didn't tell a story about it, but it was one of the interesting things in Young Justice, where he's working as a police guard or whatever. Maybe it was just a escort or a staged escort by the Justice League.
Yeah.
in Young Justice, but, you know, seeing a grown man call out Shazam and changing into it.
Yeah.
And there's certainly interesting stories you could tell when he's older.
Yeah. I mean, I think it works better in the comics, but for the films, I think, especially because, morning, having Billy, you know, we got to bring Shazam and Black Adam together. You know, you planted the seeds in the first Shazam movie. We know he's not supposed to be part of the second one. Because to me, it would be interesting if they did it. Something where 2021 is Black Adam. 2022 is Shazam 2. 2023 is Shazam versus Black Adam.
Right.
And you just had that kind of flow and you rode that wave out, you know, before you couldn't. Because then you could kind of maybe get into having Shazam appear in other movies where it's not so much Shazam focused. Like a team up movie or something where you could have Billy in small parts. But whatever.
Yeah. Well, you know, everything, kids don't stop growing and everything stopped for a year. So what are you going to do?
Right.
That's gonna put a hitch in your plans, but
no more hitch in that giddy up. So, all right, what else we got here? A fandom poster. The fandom poster that kind of looked like fake, but it's not. And the fandom poster, I realize why I don't like it is because it used like the concept art of Black Adam and the concept art of the Flash instead of just having new photos of them. But it's interesting. What do you think about this poster?
Well, it gets across that they are talking about, you know, the entire DC universe, everything that they've got coming ahead. You know, we got movies, they've got animation there, they've got video games and stuff. So, I mean, like you said, it looked almost fake. It looked almost cartoonish. You know, it's these montage posters that have been made for everything since the Star Wars prequels.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where they just like shove all the characters in there into a fake background. Just like, this is everybody we have.
Yeah, but what I've realized is everything that's on here is the current, like, newest version of the character. It's like, or like what's going on now, like what we're trying to sell now, because this is what's happening now.
Right.
You know, I mean, there's no like Grant Gustin Flash, but there's the concept art of the Ezra Miller Flash for the Flash movie. We have Tyler Superman because his show is going now. Peacemaker because he's about to have his show. Aquaman 2. You know, so Aquaman's on there.
Well, the Black Adam is just the concept art of Black Adam too.
Exactly. You know, we have.
It's not a picture of the prop. They're not spoiling that. I mean, like we said, hopefully we'll get the suit reveal and maybe even a teaser trailer. And that's been wrapped for a while now.
And the one thing I pointed out to you is I didn't recognize at first they had the Barbara Gordon Batgirl, and it's from the upcoming Gotham Knights game. But looking at previously released images and looking at this, it looks to me like they've toned her skin tone down some, maybe making her look more in line with the Latino actress that's going to be Barbara Gordon. So they have a kind of similarity there compared to like images released before. So I don't know. It just kind of looks like it on the poster. Because at first I thought it was like maybe concept art of Batgirl, but you were like, no, that's from the game. So
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like Gotham Knights. When the early video released, I mean, it looked really cool, but it still looked like still needed some polishing. And I know that they pushed the game back a while, so that might be something,
yeah,
polishing the character models and the environment and stuff.
it just kind of sucks because I was looking forward to that game. Still am, but we're going to get another panel of that game and the Suicide Squad versus Justice League game as well. But yeah, the fandom.
Well, what about Wonder Woman? Wonder Woman's the only comic image on this poster. Oh yeah, and Jon Stewart.
Because even Harley on here is the new video game because there's nothing new to sell with Margot Robbie, and there's nothing new with Gal as Wonder Woman, so they put the comic Wonder Woman, and that's kind of what I'm saying is like everything that's on here is like either the show that's going on at the moment or the next version that's in production or something,
right?
Of the characters. So, yeah, interesting. It's more like a poster of like the presentation that will be, and of course they have the DC Superhero Girls and the Teen Titans Go because that's the only animation that we have at the current moment. I did see. Okay, did you see that one of the things is that we're going to get a very early look at the new Batman animated series cartoon?
Yes, it did.
But I didn't see anything about the My Adventures with Superman cartoon.
No, didn't see anything about that.
Because there's Crypto on there for the Super Pets movie.
Well, that's because that's Dwayne Johnson and he's coming up.
Yeah, I mean, that's coming up too. We're supposed to get something for that. But yeah, fandom's coming. And now we have DC Fandom Fridays.
Yep, which was just released yesterday on YouTube.
Which was cool and weird at the same time, I guess. Thanks, Jim Lee, for your contribution to the ever-growing comic market. All right, let's move on. Fandom, yay. Did you see this about, like, I've tried to find more information about it. It's like one post I found. The Merry Little Batman. It's an animated film coming to Cartoon Network. And the description is, when a 6-year-old Damian Wayne finds himself alone in Wayne Manor, he must transform into Little Batman in order to defend his home in Gotham City from the crooks and supervillains intent on destroying Christmas.
Oh, you know what? I think I did see something when I was skimming through. That does sound familiar. But, yeah, that's interesting.
I'm like, cool. I know whenever that comes out, the kids will get a kick out of it. I'll get a kick out of it because it's, Christmas and Batman.
Yeah.
Because who doesn't love Bat Christmas?
Right.
Where they celebrate the Bat God. You know what I'm saying? And then, let's see. Supergirl is to end November 9th with a 2-hour finale. So, awesome.
Well, that's cool.
So that means it'll probably be like an hour and 15-minute episode with 45 minutes commercials.
More than likely.
That's cool. I mean, wrapping up her story and, I was thinking like, so if it ends November 9th, that's the same night The Flash returns, isn't it? Or is The Flash return the following week?
Oh, I don't have that memorized.
It just makes me kind of interesting if like maybe in November or in December or something, we'll get Superman and Lois season 2 coming back. So we continue that almost continual flow of shows.
Which we've been asking for the past few years.
Yeah, which has been fun and interesting because, it's September and usually at this time is when we're seeing things getting ready for the new seasons of all the shows because we're going to premiere next month in October. But here we are still with Supergirl. So And it is almost like
Yeah.
her new season premiered, just because. But, all right, that's it. That's all I got for news. I don't. Is there anything else? Did I miss anything else? I've been trying to keep up, but it's been a busy week.
No, I think you covered it. All that I can think of, that I can remember that we shared.
All right, yay us! Look at us. Good job. Good job. All right, so let's get into Supergirl with Welcome Back, Kara. Welcome back, Kara. Let's turn the page back. So, what do you think of Welcome Back, Kara? Just the overall.
A little less Power Rangers than it was before the break.
Yeah.
A little bit. Well, I mean, it was mostly a Zor-El kind of focused episode. Not entirely focused on him, but what he's got PTSD from the loss of Krypton. Mm-hmm. He believes Earth's fate is the same. So it was a decent episode.
Yeah.
They came back with some pretty cool effects. It was nice to see her and Zor-El flying around together. The one thing that bugged me about the opening was, Brainy doing his thing, walking down the street, dodging and avoiding everybody, and not causing problems as much. Except for when he walks across the street, the timing was off because the van had to stop and swerve. I was like, that was off. One more take and they got the timing right. He should have walked right by and the van should have just right on past it.
Yep. I like that opening shot just because I felt like they were showing us like the outside set of the tower that we've never seen before. So like, this is different. This feels fresh. Feels like on location.
Yeah.
So
even when they're still outside, it's only the cast together.
Mm-hmm.
They have the one scene where the garbage monster is like blasting and destroying stuff, and you've got a bunch of looks like trash guys or construction guys or something running away, but they're not. It's not a whole bunch of people. It's still kind of an isolated area.
Oh yeah, you can definitely still
before the team shows up.
You can still feel the effects of like the COVID protocols for filming and everything on this show, especially. Yeah, we'll get into more details, but overall, like it was a good episode. I like seeing Kara back and up front. Andrea is going nuts, and
Andrea Rojas.
And Kara's dealing.
I did tell Jamie. I said that's going to be funny to be able to talk about Andrea Rojas and again.
She's psycho, man.
Yeah, she is. Last year, she couldn't care less about Catco. She worked in the office upstairs.
Right.
But now that Catco's her only valuable asset.
Yeah.
She's like, we have to be the most hard-hitting.
Journalism. After she's been like,
yeah.
Well, just whatever. It was all about the clicks. It wasn't about really anything else. And we had a large debate on this the other day of like, what is Catco anymore? And what I've realized with a lot of the show with Supergirl, like I don't remember what's changed post-crisis because I feel like the show came back last season and dealt with stuff, but it was Like, it was choppy, it was small, it was rushed at the end. And then there's certain elements I'm like, okay, have we addressed this since Crisis? Like, maybe Catco's changed since post-Crisis. Maybe, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I can't keep up with what on Supergirl's been altered in her world since Crisis.
Yeah, I mean, some of Andrea and her Akrata story that had been altered. I mean, the fact that they still had the interview with Supergirl from season 1, that kind of jettisoned them up a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, this episode, Andrea, she has got a massive complex with Lex. Like, everything's got to be Lex. Everything's got to be a problem because of Lex.
Yeah.
And it's all about Lex and then the journalism. I'm glad that only lasts this episode.
I don't know.
By the end, she was.
I still think she's nuts.
Well, I don't think it's gonna stop, but I think it for business purposes, it was a good idea for her to go with the angle that William was writing about.
Yeah.
Because all she wanted was to blame it on Lex. And, so I think business-wise, she was right. She did the right thing.
You're talking about them being the 8th news source.
Yeah,
like,
she's all about the rating.
I don't think you're going to beat the Daily Planet, okay? Sorry, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm still holding on to my fact that I think the events of this season take place before Superman and Lois starts.
Well, what did you send? Was it you who sent something about there was one reference to Supergirl that they cut from Superman and Lois?
Yeah, all it was when they were getting fired from the Daily Planet, like they were grabbing their stuff and like there was a picture of them and Kara. And I'm like, okay, but you know how hard dialogue is to say? Like, because especially things like the Fortress, we go to the Fortress in this episode, and it's still a massive, huge fortress on Supergirl that's supposed to be Superman and hers, and it's a completely different look. And I don't like the idea that Superman and Lois is actually a different Earth that we're going to find out about, because then I feel like that kind of betrays what happened at the end of Crisis. Because we've already had Diggle show up and talk to him about and mention Crisis and fighting together, so that kind of negates that, But I wish they would say something. But if the fact that Tyler's working theory here that Kara's gone to live in the future with Mon-El or whatever, and so he just doesn't bring Kara up because she's not around.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get some idea of, where Kara is by the end of the season.
Yeah, that's my working theory, anyways. I did like Zor-El's costume. It looks a lot like the Allura costume for when she put on a suit and fought alongside Kara. So that was cool. More browns and maroons. I do long for them to do some sort of story where they have Jor-El and Zor-El interact together. We never get that.
No, we don't.
At any point in this episode, were you feeling that maybe Zor-El was going to go crazy or something? Like he just looked dark, or maybe they were going to try to go I don't know. Just some of his acting choices made him very uncomfortable for me. And I thought, are they going to go New 52, or he's going to start turning into Cyborg Superman or something?
Right. I was wondering if at any point, because what we have in this is what we have in this is a satellite, a space station of some sort, crashing down into the ocean, and Supergirl and Zor-El, they take off to go save the day, and a chunk of it breaks off and is on fire and crashes into a garbage island in the middle of the ocean, and it catches on fire. And Zor-El, while Supergirl goes to propel the satellite or the station back into outer space, Zor-El goes down and uses his super breath to blow out the fire. And he says while he's down there, he x-rayed the garbage, and it was all covered in chemicals and things. A bunch of stuff disposed of by the DEO. A bunch of dangerous garbage and tech and chemicals and things. And it causes him concern. So this is where he starts to check on the oceans and all this stuff, and eventually he's like, "There's still time to save Krypton." Like he's starting to lose it.
Yep.
Like the PTSD is starting to crack. So, I mean, I thought that they could have gone the route where he would do anything to save the world, no matter how dangerous. But I liked how they had Alex stand up to him. It wasn't Kara. It was Alex. Said, "Get on board or get out of the way." And he backed off. So he's not lost. He's just far gone. So I could see how they could have easily drug that out and made him into some kind of crazy person.
And I'm glad they didn't.
But it was nice that they didn't.
I'm really tired of that.
Yeah, it was nice that they didn't.
There's been a lot of fan polls online recently of people talking about like how many Kryptonians should have survived Krypton and all this. And what I've kind of boiled it down to is I'm on board with Clark, and then Kara shows up later, and then there's a great story there, and then like Zod and like 2 others from the Phantom Zone, and that's it. I don't need any other type of surviving Kryptonians in space, any other Kryptonians on Earth, any other Kryptonians. Like, I'm not a fan of Argo City.
No.
Kandor is kind of this up in the air thing, because part of me likes the idea that Kandor, they're frozen, suspended in time, and bottled. And this plane where like they don't know how to fix it, and it's like just this kind of like haunted memory, that leans on Superman.
Well, yeah, the reason they don't know how to fix it is it's not just a Kaluan technology. Brainiac has assimilated thousands of worlds, and he's learned which they have in this, the technologies aren't compatible. In this episode, we see that these alien technologies are not always compatible. But Brainiac's thousands of worlds of knowledge, his tech is far beyond anything that any race has ever encountered alone or accomplished alone. So, like, the tech to shrink and bottle a city is beyond what they know, and they can't reverse it. So it is kind of like a kind of like a frozen piece of history. They can't do anything with it. So it's not like Kryptonians who can be freed.
Yeah, in some stories they've tried to do where Clark shrinks down and goes into Kandor, and that's not, I don't know. I don't like it. I like the idea of keeping more of the last son of Krypton, and it's a good storyline with his cousin, because that leads back to like some really good stories about their family and the brothers L, and why both of their children survived and kind of thing. So, but we digress.
Yeah. I do like the one thing in the story, though, in the current run of the comics, just to take a sidestep, that
step away.
they've got Kryptonians from 1,000 years ago who were exiled off of Krypton. So it's like early days of
like primitive Kryptonians,
like just more primitive Kryptonians that they're out of the years of whatever they've done, genetic experimentation, things like that. That they're early Kryptonians and they react differently. They don't have the same powers.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that's interesting. Getting a more primitive version of Kryptonians, but it's not like there's a lot of
right. Exactly. So, yeah, that I totally agree with you on that one. That makes it neat. It's something different, but yes.
Yeah, it's definitely something new.
I just get tired of like, man, look, another Kryptonian. Wow. For a race that was supposed to have disappeared, there sure are a lot of you. Gee willikers, you're right, Batman.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of nice, like in Man of Steel, where they abandoned their spacefaring ways, so there weren't Kryptonians out in space just living out there in different areas. So that way there's just a whole bunch of them who've been out in space. And then in like the New 52, the Hell storyline, the gravity of Krypton was so massive that spacefaring was actually almost impossible for them.
Mm-hmm.
So they weren't, in the New 52, there weren't Kryptonians all out in space when the planet exploded and just had nowhere to go.
Yeah, it's a conundrum of just trying to keep the stories together correctly, but yeah. All right. Let's see what else happened in this lovely episode. I liked, the idea of like Kellex and the collusion technology getting rid of trash. That would have been cool if you would have made like a lot of Kellexes and really kind of worked on focusing. And then it's kind of that it goes back to like, not to jump back to comics, but that's what we do here. We do whatever we want. What do you call it? The current Superman comic where John Kent's talking to his dad. It's like, why didn't you do more? And it's like, something like that type of Kryptonian technology could clean maybe the oceans or the skies and, help clean our environment and produce things. And maybe there's Kryptonian technology that could help with farming. And then you're like, okay, Superman, why aren't you doing this kind of stuff, Supergirl? But that's a deeper conversation that this episode doesn't address, and we'll kind of just leave it like that.
Yeah.
James is like, hold on, man, it's too early for that kind of stuff, Tyler. But I liked it. It was cool. It was kind of funny in some ways, them fighting a giant trash monster. And they named it Oscar, after Oscar the Grouch from Sesame Street.
Yeah, he named Kellex Oscar. Yeah, that was a funny moment in the episode where he talked about why he named him Oscar.
I did like the part where Car's like, I don't want to hear the word phantom. not even in a Star Wars prequel, an episode of Scooby-Doo. I don't want to ever hear the word Phantom again. And then, of course, Andrea's like, Kara, I need you to write story. Because now Andrea is Russian in my mind. So, I did like her back at Catco. It made the show feel good, like back to some sort of normalcy. I liked seeing the interaction with William. I like William as a character. I don't like William as like a love interest for Kara, but I like the idea of William as a character. So it was nice to see him kind of starting to interact, because it feels like the whole first half of the season, the whole Catco story was gone. And it's not really the first half, just the first part of the season. And now he's back, you know, so, and everybody's back. So that's nice, you know. But let's see what else happened this episode. Oscar, they decide to take Zor-El back to Argo City. He's scared to see Allura again because he feels like he failed her. He felt like he failed not saving Krypton, which is weird because wasn't it Zor-El who was able to create the process that saved Argo City?
Yes. At least pre-crisis.
Yeah, that's another thing. I'm like, okay, pre-crisis. Because, I mean, that would be an awesome flashback if they could have done it, of like them trying to save. You'd have to like retweak it from, you know, now that we're in post-crisis, it could work. But you have a flashback of Zor-El trying to get to Argo City or whatever, and at the last minute, he's able to save his wife in the city. Then he puts his daughter on the ship, and then as the planet's blowing up, he decides to go into the Phantom Zone. So it could, you know, just kind of could be a really emotional impact. But I'm also not really behind the actor playing Zor-El.
Well, you know, he's been stuck in the Phantom Zone for a while.
That's what I'm trying to give, like, some of his acting choices, like that. He's kind of post-traumatic Phantom Zoner.
Well, he's been in the Phantom Zone for nearly 40 years. I mean, the time he was trapped in the Phantom Zone, Kal-El grew up, and then Kara showed up, and she grew up. Been in there for quite a while.
Sucks.
So, I mean, for him to be not completely crazy is.
But yeah, he doesn't age.
Right.
And he's still going to look, you know, good for his wife.
Yeah.
And they're still going to look similar in age.
Right. Just what women want is another man who ages better.
That's exactly what Allura's going to say. She's like, son of a... Right. She's like, why do you look so young? He's like, I was in the Phantom Zone. What? The following episode of Supergirl is brought to you by we had to edit this. And what happened to Zor-El? Well, he went back to Argo City and Allura beat him up, and he's in jail just for not growing old. Things are tough when you're on Argo. And I still just think it's weird. Like, Argo City is out there, and yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, it's a whole planet of people, kind of Kryptonians, who could just easily come to Earth and be part of it. So, yeah, but they do their own thing. Anything else in this episode? It ends, you know, a theme that's kind of running right now is missing parents, reuniting with parents, because Mia is talking about her mom, and Lena talks about her mom and making peace for like the vision she saw of her mom. And I feel like that's coming back to play later. more and more. So, what do you think?
Well, I mean, it's definitely a theme coming up. Nia and uh, Nia and Lena. Lena's trying to make peace with her mom. She's grown up and she's had a hard time, obviously, being a Luthor.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
And
if they're gonna move her character forward, that's something she's gonna have to do.
Yeah.
Kind of free herself from the burden of being a Luthor, which she tried to do early on. She tried to be different,
Mm-hmm.
but she wasn't really, because she grew up with them and she was doing a lot of similar things with them, just with good intentions,
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully, we'll see her break away from that, doing the right things as opposed to doing the wrong things with good intentions.
Yeah.
I mean, Nia, we're going to have to see where she goes. All of last season, it wasn't last season. It feels like last season. It was before the break where Nia was talking about how she never got the training, like from her mother, on how to interpret her dreams. So she feels like a big part of herself is missing. That she doesn't know how to control and understand what her dreams mean.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of crazy, that I feel like there's so much we're retreading because it just didn't make it through. But yeah, I liked it. It was cool. It's nice to have Kara back and the team back, see her up front in her own show. And at the very end of the episode, we have Nia's dream and Nixley is there. And that's like one of the big points to end on. And the other is Andrea Rojas wants interviews with the Super Friends. And she calls them literally the Super Friends. And once Catco, that's how they're going to make it. They're going to hunt down and interview the Super Friends.
Right. Well, she's still obsessed with Lex because we get her back in her Akrata form, in her Akrata suit, and she comes out of the shadows in Lex Luthor's mansion looking for information. So she's not done with that yet, but
which is kind of funny in a lot of ways that, she goes back to her Akrata form, which kind of show that she's still dealing with stuff. And it's interesting because, yeah.
Well, we'll see where they take it. So
we will.
We all liked John Cryer's Lex Luthor.
Yeah, there was a comment from Todd Helbing saying that Lex could show up on Superman and Lois, and people were talking about it, and of course me, I gotta throw my 2 cents in, and what I said was I wouldn't mind Cryer showing up for like a 2-episode arc, just to see Tyler and Cryer together, but I don't need him as like quote unquote the big bad of the season. I don't need him as the villain of the week. Not the week. I need him as the villain of the week, not the series regular. I don't need that story right now. But
no, we need to see the Lex who's the businessman who is doing all the shady dealings, but his hands aren't getting dirty. So that way, even if he is a big bad, like things can't be traced back to him.
Right.
Like maybe not quite as ambiguous as it was on Smallville from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where a lot of things, but it definitely need to see the businessman Lex Luthor doing the dirty deeds, who's getting everybody else to do the dirty deeds for him.
I would even like if Cryer was on the show as Lex, and it was what do you call it? Flashback episodes, much like the flashback episode we got this season, and we show more of what happened, bringing to when Lex tried to turn the sun red. If that's still, in Crisis, but I don't think it is. I think that was one thing that was taken away post-Crisis, because post-Crisis Lex was such a good man. So
yeah, he was a humanitarian.
Like I said, that's one of the things that's hard to kind of remember. Is wait, what was this?
Yeah, so his crimes against humanity were erased.
Like that, he's playing crimes against humanity. But all right. So I think it's going to wrap us up here for Welcome Back, Kara. We're getting some energy now that the sun has come up and it's powering our Kryptonian cells. And so we're doing well now, people. We're doing well here in the freezing tundra of the Fortress of Ohio. So just remember,
look up in the sky.
The Krypton Report is part of the Southgate Media Group network of podcasts. If you have an interest, check out Southgate Media Group to see if your podcast is there. I bet it is. At the Southgate Media Group website, you can sign up for our newsletter. You'll get info on all the shows, and you can find what you want. You'll also find links to our sponsors where you can get great products and support the podcast. Also, our book, Pod Life, Podcasting Stories. It's a great book. Check it out. It's nice to hear where people come from and why they do what they do.